Konnichiwa. Minasan genki desu ka? Welcome once again, everyone, to a new episode of The Road to Japan. My name is Nico. I will be your host as usual. So, it's, as per usual, it's been a while since I've done a show, and I mean, it's pretty much the same reason as it is every time I end up being late, which is that I've just been super duper busy. It's May 1st, so that means that this session is really close to wrapping up for the semester. I think I only have about 3 weeks left in the current semester. And I shouldn't say that actually that it's really been intense as far as the workload stacking against me or anything like that. I think I'd say, if anything, it has more to do with things outside of school that are keeping me really busy, because I mean, it's that time of year, it's spring, so a lot of my friends here, want to kind of get outside and start visiting and things like that, so I end up getting invited to a lot of things. And I mean, as you've already heard throughout this semester, there have been times when I've had to cancel because of, my schoolwork and having to catch up on this, that, or the other. So I try to make it a point to attend these events when possible. For example, last night, my friends contacted me actually the night before saying, asking if I had any plans. And I mean, I was honest. The only plans I had was to record this show. And because it's just me doing the show, I can essentially do that pretty much anytime I want, within reason, of course. So I told them that I could move my record time, and they said, well, do you want to come hang out with us? And that's what I did. Went out and hung out with them and had a good time, as always. And then I had another friend of mine arrange earlier in the week to meet up this morning. Today's we're reaching the end of the night on a Sunday night. I'm actually doing this kind of late in comparison to when I usually record. And I mean, I have class in the morning, but at the same time, I do want to try and get a show out, at a somewhat reasonable interval. And I know it's been damn near, I don't think I recorded an episode at all in the month of April. So I figured I at least need to get one out before the end of the semester, so I can already guarantee you that the next episode is going to be the report card episode, which wraps up the semester as a whole. But there's stuff I wanted to talk about before we got to that point. So I guess we'll just kind of jump into it. So as mentioned, because if you do go to theroadtojapan.com, you will still see on the right-hand side the list of video content that's been going up. And I mean, even my busy schedule has not allowed for a lot of video content to go up either, but I've been trying to get a video out here and there. And as I keep mentioning in those videos, I have many planned and in the works that I want to do, but it just ends up being just pretty much scheduling conflicts. It's like, do I want to get some homework done? Do I want to hang out with friends? Do I want to get a show recorded? So it just ends up being that kind of stuff, as usual. So, I mean, anyone who's in college, especially, a grown adult like myself, probably has similar schedule conflicts. Maybe not exactly the ones that I have, but schedule conflicts are schedule conflicts, and they're all relative. As I was alluding to, the last episode I did was before MGC, And I mean, MGC was part of the reason that it took me so long to get an episode done, because that kind of fell not necessarily in line with my recording schedule. Although I did put out the MGC wrap up, which was just me talking for about 15 minutes, and then I added the spoiler cast to it, which thankfully my buddy Glenn Percival was kind enough to allow me to rip from his YouTube, or not his YouTube channel, but he just did a podcast of it, so I ripped the audio and then I just put his banner on there for the video segment. So anyway, I mean, as you can imagine by listening to it, it was a lot of fun to do. I'm hoping that we might be able to do something like that again next year, but we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, it was a ton of fun. But what I'm getting at is the fact that, as mentioned, I do take time off for MGC, and this caused a little bit of trouble at work. And this is because, well, my job, you know, as I keep saying on the show, I try to keep my job out of the show as much as I can. But this was, I mean, this honestly just kind of baffles me to a degree. The reason I say that is because most, if not all, places I've worked at before the shop I'm at now have what you would consider probably a very standard attendance policy. I mean, obviously they want you to show up on time, show up every day, blah, 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 blah. And when it comes to time off, most companies will want, obviously, notice ahead of time if you're planning on taking time off. Obviously, it's different if you're sick, or for those that are like parents, if you got a sick kid you got to watch after or something like that. That's different. You know, that's obviously on the spot. Or even car trouble, which car trouble ended up happening to me the same week of MGC, which caused me to have to miss an extra day than I was planning to for the MGC weekend because I had to get my car fixed. And I mean, the car got fixed, as I mentioned on the MGC wrap-up video. But the thing is that, so, like I said, most companies, if you give them advance notice, they're totally fine with it. And when it comes to things like MGC, I know usually well in advance when the event is happening, and I always plan to take the same days off, which is always a Thursday, Friday, and then the following Monday. That's how I've been doing it for pretty much since I started attending the show, which is roughly, I think this is my 4th or maybe 5th show. I can't remember, but either way, whether I was the one flying in from out of town when I still lived in Portland, or even now living in Wisconsin, I always take that same amount of time off just because that's how I do things. And sometimes people need my help outside of those days. Plus, there's additional gatherings that happen outside of the actual weekend of MGC. So anyway, I mean, long story short, I planned to take the same days off that I do, and I did. Because I gave them notice back in, like January, I think. And that was later than I usually do, because I think they usually put up the date for the show somewhere in like November or December. Maybe even earlier than that. I don't know. But either way, what I'm getting at is that I gave them plenty of notice, and I mean, we're talking at least 2 months, if not more, notice for when I was going to take this time off. And like I said, any company I've worked at in the past, you know, whether or not I have vacation time is irrelevant, because if it's planned ahead of time, and the company usually will just say, okay, you're fine with this being unpaid time off if I don't have vacation time. And I say, of course, you know, that's what I planned for. So that's it. It's all hunky-dory. Then I take the time off and there's no problems. But this company that I currently work for seems to not allow that. And I mean, what I mean by that is the fact that I came back from having the time off, and the next business day or whatever, I got called into the office of the HR manager, and they lectured me and basically wrote me up because of the fact that I took time off. And regardless of the fact that it was pre-scheduled, they just let it all collect. And this isn't even for the calendar year. They're including everything since I've started. Now I don't know what I think their policy is something like within a year's time frame. So basically because I haven't been there a full year, it's just everything since I've started working there. And I mean, that's the thing is like I've accrued many absences, but over half of them have been like pre-notification type absences, as in I gave them well advanced notice that I was going to be not at work for this, that, or the other. And sometimes they ask for reasons, and that's fine. That I have no problem giving them reasons, because they're usually legit reasons. I mean, it was an event that was happening in town, so that's why I take the time off. But it's weird because like I said, they wrote me up for it, which is like they call it like some verbal counseling or something like that, but it's still a form that I have to sign acknowledging that I had the conversation, blah, 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 which essentially anything you have to sign is a write-up of some form, and it goes in your record and it stays there and blah, 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 blah. Now, I mean, basically, I honestly, in the grand scheme of things, I don't really care because, you know, as I keep saying, you know, this job is in a finite amount of time as far as how much longer I'm going to be there. I'm not going to retire from this job one way or another. And what irks me is that they don't understand that. Now I realize they're just doing their job. This is part of policy or whatever, but I have never heard of a company that takes pre-excused absences and lumps them in with unexcused absences. So like I got sick for 2 days earlier this year, like about a month before MGC. And I mean, when I get sick, it's to the point where as far as me calling in sick to work, it's because I'm at a stage of sickness where I feel my safety will be compromised at work, because I work on heavy machinery. I work with very heavy parts. If I make what could be even simple mistakes, it can lead to really bad things happening, including stuff that could compromise my safety. I mean, we're talking parts that can be upwards of 50, 100, or even more pounds. And if you are not doing things correctly and that part ends up flying off or something, that's really dangerous. You know, regardless of the safety precautions that are put in place with the machinery and safety procedures, there's still plenty of potential for there to be very life-threatening, or at least injury-inducing accidents. Thankfully, nothing extreme has ever happened to me. I just, you know, the extent is typically just a lot of cuts and scrapes and bruising or whatever. But that's just like day-to-day stuff. I mean, but it doesn't detract from me wanting to leave because of those reasons. But at the same time, it's like I don't personally want to be in a career anymore where I go in every day and I have to be super sharp and on point to ensure that I remain safe throughout the 8 hours that I'm working. Other people are fine with that, and that's cool. More power to them. But it's not me. That's not how I want to live the rest of my life and the rest of my working career. So obviously, I'm in college to try and alleviate that. But what I'm getting at is that when I get sick to the point of calling in to work, it's because I don't want to risk not only my own safety, but the safety of those around me. Because there's nothing to say that a mistake that I make could actually affect other people. I mean, we use these giant overhead cranes to move some of these really, really heavy parts. And you can make mistakes with that crane, and that crane can come toppling down if you're not careful. I mean, it would take obviously a ridiculous amount of force to make that happen, but the other alternative would be the machine itself, getting raised by the crane or something along those lines. I mean, very dangerous situations can happen, and sometimes it can just be as simple as not being rested enough to have those types of things happen. Now, I'm not saying this stuff happens every day or anything like that, but it's possible, and I always keep those things in the back of my mind while I'm working, and as far as like before I go to work. So that's usually my policy when it comes to being sick. If it's just like I have sniffles or a cough or something like that, then I usually just kind of soldier through, and maybe I'm not feeling so hot during the day, but I can still manage to do my work. But I mean, if it's something like where I feel like really weak or like very lightheaded or something like that, then that's usually, if it doesn't go away within like a couple hours, I'm gonna call into work, because I'm not gonna risk anything by going into work like that. And I mean, there's other things to keep in mind, like if I have something contagious, I don't want to spread it around to everyone else and whatnot, because I would hope that they would do the same thing for me. But basically what I'm getting at is like, because of the fact that I only was gone 2 days and I didn't bother going to the doctor because I knew whatever it was just temporary. I mean, for all I know, it was like food poisoning or something. But either way, I didn't bother to go to the doctor because I didn't want to waste the money, even, with my insurance premium, waste the money bothering with a doctor's visit. So I just stayed home, I rested, I got better, and I went back to work. Simple as that. But either way, because of that, it's considered unexcused, because I didn't come back with a doctor's note, and that got tallied to the MGC absence, and then I got absences for Extra Life last year, being sick a couple days last year as well, and then the car trouble. I mean, it just all stacked up to the point where now they're starting to talk to me. Now I'm on like this kind of probationary period where they're going to watch my attendance very closely for the next 90 days. But the additional problem with that is that I told them straight up during this meeting. I said, look, I'm going to be graduating in like 3 weeks. So if you think I'm going to like compromise missing my graduation because of this, you are crazy. And so they essentially treated it. This is what I hate about the company. The company does this guilty until proven innocent kind of mentality, meaning they have little to no trust of any of their employees. Because I've talked with the people that have been working there a long time, and even if they've been there 10, 15, 20 years, they still treat them the same way, which is really bizarre. But essentially, in order for for my day of graduation to be okay for me to miss work, I had to bring in evidence that I was graduating. Really? I mean, that to me sounds so dumb. But I mean, I rolled with it because I didn't want to bother with additional conflict. And so I said, okay, fine. You want evidence? Fine. It's not like I'm lying. So, I went and grabbed one of the many letters that I've received talking about graduation, and I just gave it to her. Gave it to the HR rep. And I mean, so that means I'm in the clear as far as missing the day of graduation. But like there's an honor ceremony that's happening, and I was invited to that, and that happens like a week before, and I can't go to that because I'm on watch for this attendance crap. Now I'm not saying that they should just let me take as many days off as I please and all that. I do to an extent understand where they're coming from, because they're worried. They're saying junk like, we're worried if you're really committed to this company and whatever. And it's like, I want to say, no, I'm not. I'm not committed to this company. I am committed to the paycheck that I receive from this company until I am able to graduate college and move on to my career, the career that I'm really interested in and looking forward to. But I have to be patient and be willing to endure, more of this crap that I've already been enduring for like 10 years. But essentially, it's just weird. And I feel I should mention, like, while I was talking with the HR rep, because she is new, because the original rep that helped, like, getting me hired and dealt with, like, other disputes, like with my supervisor that I know I've talked about on past episodes, she actually retired. So they have this new rep in, and so she's obviously really trying to make an impression and all this other crap. And I don't want to say she's being a kiss ass, but she's like riding that line. But it's the same, honestly, when anyone starts a new job and they really want to put forward a good impression. So she's really trying to be a go-getter. Whereas I think the old HR rep would have looked at this and at least spoken a little bit more realistically to me, as far as like, look, and this is just, I have to do this as a part of my job, blah, 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 blah. But this new rep is like trying to show like legitimate concern, and I, spent a couple minutes explaining to her my situation, being like, look, I'm here just as long as I'm in college, and then when I'm done with college, I'm out of here. So, you can give me all this write-up crap that you want, but the only thing that will concern me between now and when I finish college and I'm moving on to Japan is anything that's going to cause me to get fired between now and then, because the only thing I don't want to deal with between now and then is job hunting, because I'm kind of sick of doing that. I've already had to do it like 3 times since I started college, and it's driving me crazy. So that's like my only concern. And I realize that it makes, it kind of makes me sound like some lame ass employee or something, like, oh, you're not committed to the company. It's like, I'm not committed to this line of work anymore. I do what I need to do to get by, to try and not raise any red flags to anyone, and that's it. But there are times where I'm going to stand up for what I believe in, and this was one of them. That's not to say I told the HR rep, like, look, I'm just going to take any time off that I want, and you're just going to have to deal with it. That's not how it went. But, like, in the case of graduation, I did explain to her, I'm like, look, I'm going to be taking that day off for graduation, so you can either work with me on it, or we'll be sitting down again in about a month. And thankfully, she kind of understood where I was coming from. Is like, all right, well, just provide evidence for me, this whole guilty till proven innocent garbage, and then we won't worry about it. So that's kind of where I sit. But additionally, when I was talking with her, she obviously asked some questions about, like, what I'm in school for, what I'm planning to do, and I told her obviously that I was graduating from MATC with my 2-year program, with the Associate in Liberal Arts, which in the grand scheme of things doesn't really mean squat. It's just a liberal arts degree, which I don't really think you can do much with as far as like finding a career with it or anything. I'm sure it would help, but it's not as helpful as like a bachelor's degree or a specific 2-year degree in like a preferred skill trade or something. But anyway, I told her I was graduating with that in May, and then the plan was to finish at UWM the following summer. And it kind of, inside I kind of laughed because she scoffed at that. She basically gave me this look like, oh, you think you're gonna finish within a year? And it's just more of that doubt that I've been having to deal with, not only since I've started college, but even before in other aspects of my life, before I started all this. And that's fine. She can scoff all she wants, because that is just gonna motivate me even more to show her that I'm gonna do it. And she really thinks that, like, I honestly think that people at my job look at me as some kind of failure, because that's how I'm treated there. I'm always treated as if, like, I'm not, I haven't made any kind of effort over the last 10 years that I've been doing this line of work. And I mean, I don't know, maybe a lot of it's in my head. Maybe I'm jumping to conclusions. I don't know. But when I see the contrast when I'm at school and I hear things like from my classmates, from my instructors, from the counselors I speak with, basically anyone having to do with my school life, they're all like super positive about things, which obviously is fantastic, because that's needed. That's necessary when you're going through something like this. You need like that positive support. And I mean, I get it. It's difficult to say whether I actually need it, because I'd like to think that I have enough motivation myself personally that I could still do it on my own, but the support helps. And just it's so weird. It's almost like night and day when I look at my work life right now and my school life, because I am treated very differently in both realms, I guess. Because yeah, work just always is treating and talking to me like I'm a failure, like I just suck. And I'm not saying I necessarily disagree with that, because I do feel I'm not really that great of a machinist, even though I've been doing it 10 years. It's just that I'm so worn out and trying to apply myself and continuing to get the same results from those above me, which is what I've been talking about. Them looking at me is like, well, you're not doing that great of a job. Like, I get these progress reports every 2 months, and all it keeps saying is that I suck. That I suck at this, I suck at that. They basically just change up what I suck at every time I get these reports. And I mean, I don't really let it get to me, because whether or not they're right, I don't care. Because again, any extra effort that I used to put into my job, because there was a time where I was definitely Mr. Go-Getter and wanting to do the best job possible, always trying to offer ideas and efficiency and things like that, blah, 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 blah. That happened at one point during my career, and seeing the lack of results from that, I just got tired. And so now that extra effort is instead getting put towards my schooling, which is probably why I'm doing as well as I am. But I think I've babbled on long, and I mean, like I said, this is part of the reason why I don't like talking about work, is because I end up getting, I mean, I'm already a long-witted person as it is. Like, I can definitely ramble and jibber jabber way too much, and I try to keep things positive, and one of the ways I do that is by not talking about work, because work is like the largest source of negativity I have in my life right now. But I don't know, sometimes I gotta just I guess vent a little bit, and I'm sorry that I do it with you, my audience. I mean, I vent with my friends as well, but I try not to, just because I don't know, when I hear a lot of venting from my friends, from them, it is kind of a downer. And I really hate the fact that I'm putting this on my audience, because I don't want to bring my downer to them as well. But I hope that my frustrations with my current career will, help my audience to understand why it is so important that I not only finish, but I finish as successfully as possible, because I want to prove to everyone that I am totally capable of doing this, and I am capable of doing it to the best of my abilities. And so far, I'm doing that. And I just gotta keep the momentum. Like, I'm getting closer and closer to that finish line. And I don't know. I think I'm definitely just trailing off here. So maybe we'll just call it good there and move on. But I will say, I want to add a quick little story here. I wasn't sure where to shoehorn it in, but as far as like, if I didn't have already enough reasons to want to live and work in Japan, I got reminded of one, I should say, just a couple days ago. So, let's see, how do I start this? So, okay, every week, I'm definitely a creature of habit, and I follow routines as best as possible because that's how I am able to ensure that things get done. So one of those things, in addition to obviously making sure my homework is done every week, is other things like my, like household chores and whatnot. So one of those obviously is taking care of laundry. So while I do have laundry facilities in the building that I live in, they fail fairly often, and they're usually a bit more expensive. So during one of the times that they were in a failing state, I had to look elsewhere to go do my laundry. And thankfully, there is a 24-hour laundromat right down the street from me. So literally what I do is, as I'm coming home from work, I just go straight to the laundromat, do my laundry. Because I do it every week, I don't have a lot to do. It's just one load, sometimes two. And I'm like in and out within roughly an hour or so. And then I use that also as an excuse to, I'll bring my laptop with me and do my homework while I'm waiting for my laundry to wrap up. So, it tends to be, a very useful hour of my time. Yes, it's at the end of a long day and so on and so forth, but it ends up being a lot better than forgetting to do it over the weekend or something if I was doing it here. But what I'm getting at is that typically, because I'm doing the laundry at a late hour, oftentimes, more often than not, it's just me in there doing my thing. And again, occasionally there are other people in there. Typically they usually are there well before I am, so they're not there for very long after I arrive. But either way, I end up usually being alone in there. So this past week I was doing it just like normal, and this guy walks in, and he walks up to me and asks me if I smoke. And I don't know if I've ever told you guys this, but I used to smoke. I was a smoker for 10 years, and then I quit. When did I quit? The end of 2011, I think. I didn't necessarily make it a New Year's resolution, but it just happened to fall around New Year's when I quit. So I've been cigarette free for roughly 4 or 5 years now, something like that. But anyway, I obviously told him I don't smoke, without going into detail. And he said, "Oh, okay, sorry to bother you," and went to go sit down. Now, mind you, this guy did not have any laundry to do, which, to me, that's the only reason you would be in a laundromat, is to do laundry. But here's the thing, it led into what I consider to be a kind of creepy situation, because he then went a couple seats down from me and kind of stretched out and would, I don't know, nap or something. I'm really not sure. He didn't come off as drunk, because I know it was fairly late. I don't think it was actually closing time as far as bars are concerned, but for whatever reason, he didn't strike me as someone that had been drinking. So I just found it kind of odd that he was just curling up there to nod off for a bit. And he didn't look particularly disheveled, like he was homeless or anything. Honestly, in the small town that I live in, I have not seen a single homeless person here, because I think this is enough of a suburb from the main city that you're not going to really see a homeless population. At least I have not, since I've lived here for going on 2 years now. And he actually looked fairly decently dressed. He looked I don't know, somewhere between formal and business casual. He looked like he got off a long day at the office. So it just, the whole situation kind of struck me as weird. But then like he would like wake up because like he dropped something on the floor, and that would wake him up, and then he'd kind of fidget and fumble around. And then there were periods where just because of the way that we were situated, I could see him out of the corner of my eye. And there would be times where he would sit up and just face me and just kind of look in my direction. And this went on for probably maybe 20-30 minutes. Just these weird phases of him like kind of sitting there looking in my direction and then going back to like nodding off for a bit. So I mean, it got me wondering. I mean, granted, see, this is the weird thing, because I live again in a kind of small town, so there's not like a homeless population as far as I can tell. And while I'm not saying there's no crime, this town essentially shuts down at like 9 o'clock in the evening. So basically, like, think about when it gets dark during the summertime. That's essentially when this city shuts down. So it was just weird, but it's the fact that I live in America, so anything's possible when it comes to criminal activity, because that's just the kind of country that we live in. And like, it crossed my mind because I had my laptop out, I was doing my homework, so I was wondering if this guy was like trying to eye me for a potential robbery or something. Because I clearly had my car parked in front of the laundromat, so he knows which car was mine because it was the only one in the parking lot. And that was the other strange thing, is that I didn't see another car in the parking lot at all while he was here. So I just kind of started getting more and more nervous as time went on, and I didn't want to not finish my laundry because that would have just been more of a problem than was needed. So I continued doing my laundry, but after a while I decided to say screw it with the homework, because I wasn't able to focus on my homework anyway because I was concerned about this guy. So because of the fact that I was worried he was going to try and jack my laptop, I put it away and I put it in my car and I locked the door. And then I just went back in the laundromat and just I just stood in front of the dryer waiting for my laundry to finish. And like, the only other thought that crossed my mind is that he was going to wait, excuse me, until I was done with my laundry and I was like loading it into my car, and then he was going to like come up behind me or something and either, like stick a weapon of some kind in my back and be like, give me your keys, give me your laptop, whatever. Now I realize I'm probably likely blowing this out of proportion. It's quite probable and possible that this guy was just, I don't know, for whatever reason, he was hanging out in a laundromat. And I'm pretty sure that there are also cameras in the laundromat, but that doesn't mean that I wanted to end up being a statistic on, some police file or whatever. So yeah, I was just more and more just being concerned about this whole situation. And so what I ended up doing was I stopped the dryer before the timer actually ran out. I loaded my clothes into my basket and I closed the door and I started the dryer back up again because he was on the other side of this bay of washers, so he couldn't see what I was doing. And what freaked me out even more was the fact that as I was loading my clothes into my basket, he got up and started walking around. And I don't know. It just crossed my mind, like, okay, this is the signal. He waited for the dryer to stop and now he's going to try and hold me up or something. So I just started the dryer back up just to throw him off in case that was what was going to happen. And basically just hauled ass out of there. I threw my clothes in my car, started the car, and I was gone. And obviously I don't know what occurred with him. I don't know if he stayed there for several more hours or if he just took off after that. I don't know. But the point of me telling that story is because if this was Japan, if that whole situation was happening in Japan, I wouldn't have anything to worry about, because criminal activity like that just, I'm sure it happens, but it doesn't happen as often as one might think. And I know the argument is like, well, there's still plenty of weapons because Japan is very strict on gun control. I don't know what the laws are, but it's very difficult to be a resident with a firearm. I don't even think police, like regular police officers, carry a gun. I think they only carry like batons. I think besides like maybe SWAT or whatever their equivalent is over there, that's probably the level where they might start carrying guns. But it's not common for, it's definitely not common for people to be walking around the street with a gun or anything. That's not to say obviously like knives can't be used or what have you, but I would not have worried about the same situation if I was in Japan, because it's highly, highly unlikely that any element of that situation would have led to a criminal situation. And I mean, that's, for me, that's more than enough to keep me motivated to get to Japan, because I mean, that's one of the things I am always concerned about in living in this country, is that we're just becoming less and less of a safe country to live in. Now, I'm not trying to make it sound like, it's like in the movies, like it's a war zone or anything like that. And there's definitely countries out there that are far worse than anything going on in the US. I'm not trying to say that this is the worst of the worst, but I am trying to say that Japan is definitely a hell of a lot better off than we have been. And I mean, it was just a story. It was a situation that just freaked me out. And I mean, yes, I do feel pretty silly about it, telling you guys about it, because it probably was not what I thought it was, as far as like, this guy probably had no intentions of holding me up. But the fact that the possibility was there was enough to freak me out and cause me to just haul ass out of there. So I don't know, I'm really curious, like, if I end up in Japan and like just a force of habit will cause me to still like look over my shoulder or whatever. Even though like I am constantly, like watching videos of people who live in Japan, reading reports of people who live in Japan, and they don't have to do stuff like that. I mean, you can walk down a dark alley and, I'd say 9.9 times out of 10, nothing's going to happen, because the crime element, while it's probably there, it's there at such a minimum level that it's almost non-existent. I mean, that's just the way it is. And I think a lot of that has to do with, I believe they're very strict when it comes to their judicial system, as far as like punishment and whatnot. But it's just something that makes you think. Like when it's something as simple as just going to a laundromat to do your laundry, and then it leads to, what could be a situation that would end up in the newspaper. And I don't know, that's what gets me thinking about that stuff. So, I thought it was worth sharing. It's probably a stupid story, but either way, it's just something that kind of freaked me out and just made me continue to realize, like, I really want to get to Japan just so I don't have to freak out about stuff like that. I mean, it's as if I didn't have enough stress already with trying to get through school. Now I have stress, just worrying about my safety outside of school and outside of work. Just trying to do something simple like my laundry. I mean, come on, this is dumb. But anyway, let's move on here. So, because I've already been talking for 45 freaking minutes. So let's see what else is on my agenda here. I guess I'll run down my classes real quick, just to say, talk about like what's going on, because there are, because we're at the end of we're approaching the end of the semester. Things are starting to kind of change up a little bit. So, like, to begin with my art class, we're pretty much done in art. There is just one thing left to do, and that is our final paper to write. And we have been presented with the material to do the paper write-up. And essentially, my instructor, we went to class last Thursday, and he said, this is the last class of the semester, last full class. So the last 2 classes was us basically doing I guess you could say impromptu presentations. And I'm not saying that they really required a lot of research. So I'll give you examples here. So the first one was he wanted us to find art in the world that we found offensive. And many students usually went to things like racism, which, I mean, yeah, of course that can be offensive art when it's something that involves racism. Like one guy brought in like graffiti that was racist towards a particular race, most notably his, and other people brought in similar works like that. Kind of revolving around racism. I went a different route, and I really don't want to get into it on the show, but I basically put up a collage of photos of like family life, most notably involving like babies or small children, not because those pictures offended me, but it was what they represented, which is, as I've mentioned, I have gone to the lengths of having surgery done to ensure that I will not be a father ever. And what offends me is the fact that people to this day, and mind you, this surgery was done like 10 years ago. So, to this day, I still get people telling me that I'm going to regret it. As if like my own opinion and decision was not worth a damn. Because according to society, like I'm just pre-programmed to want to have children, and for some reason I'm going to regret it when I'm older. And they said that to me when I was 24 having the surgery done, saying, oh, well, you'll regret it when you get older. Well, I'm in my 30s now and I still don't regret it. The only thing I even remotely regret is the fact that I'm still not married, because I did want to get married. I was hoping I'd be married before I was 30, and that still hasn't happened yet. So that's like on my bucket list eventually, but it's not, it's obviously not a priority. So I really don't have time for anything like that right now. But there's still no drive whatsoever for me to have kids. And when I see like the propaganda in the art world, in this case, photography, I feel like it does like this kind of brainwashing that society imprints in us at a very small, or at a very young age, that, family life is number one and it's a number one priority. And, when people hit the age that I'm at, then they start thinking like, well, I have to have children or else my life is meaningless. Like that's the best I can come up with as far as what they do to justify it, because I mean that oftentimes is the case. I don't want to sound like a jerk about it, but sometimes that's how it goes. Now that's not to say that obviously there are plenty of people out there that do want a family, but they have other things that they want to do first, and want to follow that lineage. That's totally fine. That's cool. I have no problems with that, and I have no problems with parents in general. All but a couple of my close friends here are parents. They all are parents of like small children, and I love most of those children like they were my own. Like they were my flesh and blood. But that's usually as far as it goes. Like as I like to put it, I get my kid fix, quote unquote, when I'm hanging out with these kids. And then when the moment that they're misbehaving or something, then it becomes the parent's problem. Now I know that makes me sound like some lazy prick, as far as, oh, you just don't want the responsibility. Well, I don't. I mean, if we're being honest here, yeah, I don't want the responsibility of being a parent. I mean, I can barely take care of myself and this cat back here. And that's totally fine with me. I'm fine taking care of myself because I know what I need and what I'm capable of doing and going without and all that other stuff. But bringing like a child into it, it's like that's a totally different game. But anyway, I mean, like I said, I didn't want to go into it, and I did anyway. But essentially, like there was that, and then I'm just gonna keep going here. And then the next assignment was to bring a article for this website that the art instructor likes to go to a lot, that has to do with the art world, of course. And then just pretty much talk about things that we liked in the article. So, it wasn't anything extensive, and that was basically the end of it. Then we had like a little bit of lecture time, little Q&A kind of deal, and then that was it. Then he said, okay, so now here on out, we won't have class next week, because he wants us to have time to work on the paper. And then the following week, which is on a Thursday, then we just need to come in, turn in the paper, and then we're done. That's it. We're done for the entire semester, because technically we have another class period that we would be going to the following week, because I think that's the 18th, 19th of May, I think, is our last day. Whatever Thursday is on that week. But it's the 12th. The 12th is our last day, and it's just us going in, turning in the paper, and walking right back out. Like I don't even need to bring my backpack or anything. I just go in, as long as I fall within the half-hour window that he determined, which was like, he said, I'll be here between 9 and 9:30. So anytime between there, come in, hand me your paper, and you're done. And then it's just a matter of waiting for grades to come through. So far, I'm still holding at 100% solid on the art class, because we have like these little 5-point assignments, and I've been getting 100% on all those assignments. Then it's just a matter of this paper. So the paper, I think, is either 25 or 30 points. It's the way he puts it it's going to be like 5 points per page, because I think it's a 5 or 6 page paper that we're writing. So essentially all we got to do is just finish up that paper, and then we're good to go. So then let's see, moving on into speech. Speech is kind of not necessarily taking a similar format, but in the beginning of the semester, we were told that we were going to have 4 prepared speeches, and then 4 impromptu speeches. We have completed all the impromptus at this point, and I at least personally got 100% on all the impromptus, so awesome. I'm really happy about that. And I've been getting either like 95% or above on the prepared speeches that I've done so far, which is also great. And then there are quizzes in that class which I've been getting 100% or more. I think one of them I got like a B on, but overall my grade is still like 102% in speech, so I'm not really worried about it. But we do have one more prepared speech, because technically we have 2. There's supposed to be a persuasive speech, and then what she's calling a ceremonial speech. But because of where we are in the semester, and because the persuasive speech requires a lot of research, because we have to present a case basically supporting a side that we're taking on an issue. So she has decided to nix the ceremonial speech in order to give us more time to work on the persuasive speech, which I'm okay with. I think she still is allowing the ceremonial to be like an extra credit thing on the last day if we have any time for it, which is fine. That's totally cool. I may still end up doing something, but I mean, honestly, I don't really need any more extra credit, because I'm at this point I'd have to do really, really poorly on the persuasive speech to get a grade that's going to concern me, which for me would be anything below an A. But I mean, I could probably even turn in like a C grade persuasive speech, and it would still keep me at an A overall. Not to say that I'm going to do that. I'm still going to try and put my best foot forward and my best effort into this persuasive speech, of course. But you know, that's pretty much what we're looking at in that class. And then I think we have still like 2 more quizzes to do, and then that's it. So essentially all we're doing in speech is just working on this persuasive speech for the end of the semester, and then once we do that, then we're good to go. And that's gonna take us all the way through the end of the semester as we're doing preparation and things like that. So I mean, things are looking good in there. In my political science class, let's see, where are we at on that? We're essentially at the end of our political science. We had our paper due, which was titled a political socialization paper, and I tell you, that's probably I'm not trying to gloat here, but it was honestly like one of the easiest papers I've ever had to write, because it did not require any sources, and all it was pretty much personal opinion, and more like information about our background as far as politics go. So, you know, when I didn't have to pull any information from books or web articles or cite any sources or whatever, I mean, he left that open if we wanted to. But yeah, I honestly wrote the paper. I probably wrote the majority of that within 2 hours, on a Monday, and that was the day it was due. And then I just did a quick little proofread, made sure everything looked good, quick spell check and all that, and I turned it in, and I got 100% on it. So looking good there too. And then there's still the discussion boards, which I think only have 1 or 2 left to do in that regard. So I think we'll still have one for this week's, and then another one next week. And then I think that's it. No. And then we have one more exam, and then that's it, and we're done. So I think last I checked, I'm holding at like a 95% in that class, so that's still looking good. And I mean, at least based on the 2 exams I've taken so far, I have high hopes for doing well on the final exam, but we'll obviously have to wait and see. But you know, things are looking good. And let's see, next is diversity, my diversity class, cultural diversity, and I'm doing well in that as well. It's also, all that has been is just discussion boards, and then the one midterm exam that we had. And with all that, I think I'm holding like a 97% in there, because I'm getting 100% on the discussion boards, and then I got like a 98 on the midterm. Like I think I missed a couple questions or something like that. So I know that we have a couple more discussion boards to do in there, and then we do have a final exam, which if the midterm is anything to go off of, it should be easily doable. It's definitely more doable than the test in my poli-sci class, because they both give an hour for it to get done, but the diversity exams are much more doable in an hour. I need to take a drink here. Okay, much better. So, I mean, that's the only worry I have with poli-sci exams, is that usually I'm running it right down to the wire. And I know, even with, I don't think I talked about the second exam that we took, but it was essentially the same as the first one that I know I mentioned, in which I was going down right to the wire. I think when I finished the second exam, I still only had like 3 to 5 minutes left on the timer. And I mean, honestly, I think that even if we go over on time, it's not going to dock us points unless we go over for a lengthy amount of time. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I also don't really want to test it. So, I still try to finish within the time limit. So far, so good. That's the best I can say. But yeah, diversity looks like it's going to be a good, nice, solid A when it comes report card time. So we'll obviously have to wait and see for final results, but things are looking good. And that just leaves science, which, as I think I mentioned on the last episode, I started the lab portion of the science class, and all it's been is just these exercises that we have to do, which basically cover chapters, and then we're just going through like questionnaires within the chapter, and then there's like a end of chapter, they call it a lab report. And I mean, sometimes we have to do figures or whatever, and because my book is online, I have to take screenshots of the book pages and then essentially go between either Microsoft Paint or Photoshop in order to modify the tables and whatever to suit the needs of these exercises. So we've done, I think I just finished my fourth one right before recording the show tonight, and I mean, with this one, I'm a little annoyed, I'm gonna admit here, only because like none of my assignments have been graded yet, and that's probably the one thing that irks me the most when it comes to any teacher, whether it's an online teacher or a classroom teacher, it doesn't matter. But if they're taking their time grading assignments, that's when I start to get kind of pissed off. Just because I'm not able to see how I'm doing, and because none of these assignments have been graded, I don't know if I'm doing well or if I'm doing poorly. I mean, admittedly, I think it's just a pass-fail situation. So, I mean, if that's the case, I should not have any trouble doing a pass-fail, at least passing because it's just one credit. It's just one credit for this lab portion. But still, I want to, I mean, each of these assignments are worth 25 points, so I still kind of want to see at least how I'm doing. And so, I mean, none of these assignments have been graded. I'm hoping maybe that'll change over the next week. I mean, like I said, we've only got like 3 weeks left in the semester, so he's going to have to get around to grading them at some point. But I usually hate when it comes down to the end of the semester because there's nothing I can do at that point if I was doing poorly. I can't ask about extra credit. I can't resituate like how I'm doing these assignments, because I don't know, maybe I'm doing something wrong on them and I'm not aware of it because he hasn't looked at any of them. So I mean, that's just the kind of stuff that irks me, because I can't reevaluate how I'm doing the assignments if I don't know how they're being graded. So I mean, that's the one frustration coming out of it. I'm hoping that everything is okay, at least, for me to pass for this one credit, because I really don't want to have to retake another class with the lab, because as I've learned with working with the stuff going for UWM, which I'm going to get to in just a moment, there is a lab requirement in my bachelor's degree, but if I complete this lab credit that I'm doing right now, then that will be fine. I'll have to take more science credits, but I don't have to take any more lab portions of those science credits. Which then leaves just the straight up natural science course, which, as far as I can tell, we're done in that class too. Not completely, but all the quizzes and module tests that we've done are all complete. I'm sitting at just above 100% in that class, which is, of course, great. We have one last module test to wrap up the semester. So just because of, I guess, the way timing worked out, we've got a break for a couple weeks because our last quiz was either last week or the week before. I don't remember. And then he sent us all an email saying, okay, there's just one last module test. Here's some notes for that test. And I think he'll open it up the last week of the semester, and then it's just a matter of finishing it up. And I know those module tests aren't really terribly difficult. They're usually like double the amount of questions on the regular quizzes, and I think we get 2 hours to work on them, so that's more than enough time to complete those questions, because there's also no essay answers to worry about or anything like that. So I'm cool with that. And that's pretty much it. So, I mean, all things considered, it's looking like it's going to be another good report card. I just gotta, it's mostly getting that art paper done and then preparing that persuasive speech. Those are like the two big ticket items that I have to worry about as I'm getting ready to wrap up the semester. But aside from that, you know, it's pretty much, I don't want to say I'm kicking up my feet, but I'm definitely not as stressed as I thought I was going to be going towards the end of the semester. So all things considered, it's pretty good. So moving on, the next thing I'm going to talk about is UWM. I'm pulling up the list right now. So I have signed up for summer classes, and I don't know if I've talked about this yet, but the plan that I have is, and I can even go into planning as far as the show is concerned as well. Sorry, I'm moving kind of around the mic here. So I'm looking at, I'm actually looking at the roadtojapan.com, which is where I have all the classes listed, as far as what I've taken, what I'm in progress taking, and what I'm planning to take in the future. And so I am registered and enrolled for my summer courses. So I'm going to be taking it's like an atmospheric science class. The title of it is Thunderstorms, Tornadoes, and Hurricanes, which I like that kind of stuff. So what's really nice about going forward now with UWM is I get a little bit more selection as far as the classes that I want to take. It's not so much anymore about what I have to take. It's the only have to part of that is just following certain guidelines. But unlike the last, 2.5 years I've been at MATC, it's mostly been classes that I have to take. It's like specific subjects, specific classes within those subjects, and I don't really have a lot of room to make choices. The only choices I can make is like if I want to take them online at a classroom, and then when I want to take them, which oftentimes just falls within whatever fits in my schedule. So, it's like, for example, I would never choose to take a political science class, but I have to. It's a requirement. It's a requirement both with the associate's degree I'll be getting and a requirement for the bachelor's degree, even if I was doing all 4 years at UWM. So that's kind of what I mean. But now because I have the AA degree pretty much done, now it's more like, because I don't know if I mentioned that I went and spoke with my advisor at UWM. I met with her and we sat down and we set up a game plan. And essentially it's more just like I have to fulfill requirements within certain subjects. So, for example, I still need, I think, either 6 or 9 credits in natural science. But as far as what natural science I take, that's totally up to me. So it's more, for me, it's more like, what do I want to take and does that fit in my schedule? So I was looking through that, like what's offered in the summer term, and I saw this atmospheric science class. And I think I mentioned last time that I was going to take like an oceanography course. But what I've learned, and I guess I haven't mentioned this part either, I'm thinking I might not actually go through with the CLEP testing. And I know I talked a lot about that. But honestly, just with how busy things have been for me, I haven't really had time to study for those 2 subjects that I'm going to CLEP test on. And I mean, I'm going to be 100% honest, and I haven't like confirmed one way or the other as far as if I'm going to take them or if I'm not going to take them, but I'm leaning towards not taking them. Now, the reason for that is because the original intent for taking the CLEP test was to eliminate 2 courses that I wouldn't need to take at UWM, which would essentially save me a lot of money, because now going into UWM, my tuition increases by about $400 per class. So to give you an idea, I'm taking 4 classes over the summer. I have a bill of $4,100 that I need to pay before I can register for fall. So that's $4,100 I need to pay as soon as possible. And I do have financial aid, and I don't know if I mentioned also, like, my brain has been really scattered as far as trying to figure out what I've said on the show and what I haven't. But if it wasn't mentioned, I did get that scholarship that I applied for, the transfer scholarship. So that's obviously, awesome and whatnot. And I learned that it will be applied. It'll basically be split up and applied, half of it in fall, half of it in spring next year. And then combined with financial aid, that's still, I forget the amount that I'm getting for financial aid, but it's still going to leave me having to pay out of pocket somewhere around like $3,000 to $4,000, I think. And that's because for fall and spring semester, I'm planning on taking 18 credits. So it's actually going to be even more than what I'm doing right now. This was like a good kind of test drive to see what I'm capable of. And then the summer semester will also be a test drive to see what kind of content I can expect from UWM classes, especially since these are going to be higher level, which to me usually states that it's going to be a little more difficult, because now I'm getting into 300 level classes. So up to this point, I've been taking mostly 200 level. I've taken a couple 100, and those were easy by comparison with the 200 level that I've taken. And now I'm starting to get into 300 level. So that could mean that the difficulty could ramp up a little bit. And I want to remain confident that 300 level will be doable, and 18 credits of 300 level will be doable. But I don't know. Maybe that's where I will find my limitations going forward. I don't know. But with the plan that I have set up right now, it still leaves me with fall of 2017 that's essentially an open semester for me to cover any leftovers I might have if I don't follow through with the plan. Because the plan right now has me graduating at the end of summer, or depending on how they do it, I would walk across the stage next spring. I don't know. But either way, I'd have all my credits completed by the end of next summer. However, if at any point I feel like I'm overwhelmed and I need to drop classes, then I still have fall 2017 to fill in the gaps. So let's say that 18 credits is too much for me in the fall, then that would mean that I'd probably at least drop one class. And because I'm dropping one class in fall with 18 credits, and I was planning on taking 18 credits in the spring, I would drop another class in spring as well. So that leaves 2 classes that I need to fulfill. And that's where fall 2017 would come into play as far as taking those classes at that time, because that's a lighter workload, of course. So that's the plan. And I mean, that's the best advice I can give any student in any field or whatever, is make a plan, have a backup plan, and then have another backup plan. Make sure there are backup plans, because things get screwy and things don't always go according to plans. So you got to make sure to be ready for that kind of stuff. And that's what I'm doing. I'm preparing to the best of my abilities. I'm going to try and stick with the plan that I have, because I would like to be graduated as soon as possible. And the soonest I can graduate, with all things considered, would be next summer. So that's the plan. But anyway, getting back to kind of what I was talking about earlier is the fact that now I have a little bit more selection available to me. So this is where now I can start picking courses that actually cater to my interests. within reason, of course. So definitely, obviously because my major is sociology, I have to pick most of my classes going forward in the realm of sociology. So like 2 of my classes next in the summer, I should say, next semester, is this it's like a stats course. I don't know what that necessarily involves, but it's statistical work. That's all I can say right now. And then another one is the history of sociological theory. Now, both of these classes are prerequisites for other classes that I have to take. So the plan is going to be to take these 2 classes during the summer, so I have the prerequisites done. And then I believe, in the spring of next year is when I will take the follow-up courses, because those are offered usually during spring semester. So I'm just kind of getting a head start, making sure I have these prerequisites taken care of before spring 2017, so that it all, again, falls within the plan. So I'm taking those 2 courses. Then I'm taking the atmospheric science, because that sounds interesting to me. Who knows? It might be a ball buster. And then I'm taking a comparative literature course, which is called Literature and Film. So, I mean, literature is like, whatever, but I do like movies, so I'm hoping maybe there will be some ties with reading books and watching the films, and maybe doing a compare and contrast or something like that. I don't know. But I selected this course because it mildly interests me, but more importantly, it covers two requirements. And what I mean by that is that I have, I think, 9 credits each in both humanities and international studies that I need to cover as far as requirements for my degree. This class covers both of those subjects for 3 credits. Now, that's not to say I get a free 3 credits, as if like I was taking a humanities class and an international class separately. So I'll still have to fill the credit gap, but because I'm covering the I need to go closer to the mic here. Because I am covering international studies and humanities in one class, the additional 3 credits I'll need to do can be anything I want. Well, I shouldn't say anything I want, but I think it still just has to be a 300 level class or above, or an elective credit, which I think elective credits can be any level. But either way, that's the plan. Is I want to cover as much of the requirements with as much efficiency as I can. So I already have like 3 classes set up to cover the international and humanities credit simultaneously. There are 3 classes I can take, which gets me the 9 credits that I need. Now, that still will leave an additional what would that be? It'll leave an additional 9 credits I need to earn, but like I said, then I have more leeway as far as what those 9 credits are. They can be more or less anything I want. So that's what I'm looking for. And so that's pretty much my summer semester. It's just those 4 classes. My advisor said that was usually a little overwhelming for most students. To which I replied, "You do not realize how much I hate my job." And I mean, that's literally what I said, word for word. Like, I hate my job so much that I am willing to put myself through quite a bit in order to get out of it, and to get out of it as quickly as possible. So, she said, okay, that's fine. It's more or less just a matter of making sure that I can enroll in the classes, which there was a little hang up with the sociological theory class, because the only requirement to get enrolled in it was to be what they consider to be junior standing, because technically I'm entering UWM as a junior. So I've done my freshman and sophomore year at MATC and earned those credits accordingly. And so the problem is that with all the credits I've taken, until I finish these classes I'm in right now, the list of the 16 credits that I went over, it puts me like 1 credit shy of what they consider to be junior standing, which I think is like 55 credits. So I ended up having to email the instructor of that class asking for like a special permission, and we ended up talking to someone in administration there, and they said, okay, that's fine, because I was told to mention that I'm like damn near a straight A student, and I work really hard, and I'm this, that, and the other, and all that, like I'm on honor roll and all that other crap. Because apparently that's the kind of stuff that'll allow these special situations to go through. So either way, what I'm getting at is that I had to get like slightly special permission to enroll in the class essentially early, as they would consider. I mean, it would have been the end of the world if I didn't get into the class, because I would have just filled it with something else to ensure that I still was taking 4 classes over the summer, and then easily by then I would have had more than enough credits to be considered junior standing, and then enroll in the class just like normal, I think in fall, because I think it's offered again in fall. But I didn't know for sure, so I didn't want to risk it. So now I've got it, I'm taking it, and then it's just a matter of getting through it. Now, as far as like the schedule itself, it's not as straightforward as you might think. So I'm actually going to pull up my class schedule. Now, obviously, you guys can't see this, but I'm pretty much going to relay to you if I'm seeing it. So when the summer semester starts at the end of May. It's May 31st, so it's the day after Memorial Day, 2016. And our last day at METC is, I think, now I gotta pull up the calendar for that. Our last day is technically like Friday the 20th. For me, it would be the 19th. But because art class is not happening on the 19th, because we're already done at that point, the last day technically for me is the 18th of May, which is just a tiny bit over 3 weeks away from today. And then with that, then summer semester starts just shy of 2 weeks from my last day at MATC. So I only get 12 days break of not having to worry about any classes, and then right back to work. But so the way that the schedule is going to work is actually only 2 classes start on the 31st of May. So I will begin my atmospheric science class, and then I'm going to begin my sociological theory class on the 31st. Now, the theory class only runs 4 weeks, so I only have to worry about that class for a matter of 4 weeks. And that should be fine and doable, especially because I only have one other class to worry about. And the atmospheric science class runs the entire course of summer, through the summer semester. So it starts at the end of May and goes until the 20th of August. So it's a full, I think that's like 8 weeks, maybe 9. I might be wrong on that. But it's somewhere in that realm. And then, so the theory class ends on the 25th of June, and that's basically a Friday, I think. I'm just double checking here. Okay, the 25th is actually a Saturday. So essentially that weekend is when that theory class ends. Now the kicker is that I'll still be in the atmospheric science class, like I said, all the way until the end of August. And starting on the 27th of June is when those other 2 classes will begin. And then I'll be doing all 3 of those classes all the way till the end of August. So it'll be interesting because I'm planning on still doing the show. Oh, shirt's all weird and crooked. It's driving me nuts. Obviously, you're not seeing that on the podcast, but if you're watching the video, it's driving me crazy. But Anyway, so when I'm planning on doing the show still, obviously during summer semester, so that's going to be session 5, and I mean it'll obviously be interesting because only 1, maybe 2 episodes will have to do with the theory course, as far as how I'm doing in it. And while I will still do a report card episode, I'll be able to report on my final grade in that class well before I have to do that episode, because it'll be finished well before then. So, I mean, you know, and this is what my advisor was saying as far as it being maybe a little intense and overwhelming, is that I think what she's accustomed to seeing is students only taking maybe 2 classes during the summer, and oftentimes they probably don't, they try not to let them overlap like what I have going here. But I mean, this is what I need to take, and if I want to stick with my plan to graduate at the end of next summer, this is what I got to do. And it's just really honestly a matter of adapting to it. So, you know, like I was worried that 16 credits was going to be overwhelming for me. And, you know, while obviously every situation is going to be unique and different, I'd like to think that at least based on how this semester has gone, that I can handle something like 18 credits or 12 credits during a summer term. Granted, yes, it's not, it's not a typical 16-week semester, but that's not to say that, I mean, yeah, it's obviously going to be condensed. I've gotten kind of a little taste of that with my earth science lab, because that's only been 8 weeks. So I've been getting a taste of how condensed that can get. But that's not to say, like, if I was only taking 3 classes that are either 6 to 8 weeks, that I can't still manage the work, you know? I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's doable. I probably wouldn't want to push it any further than the 12 credits, because I don't get any financial aid during the summer term, so I have to put all that up out of pocket. So, you know, coming up with $5,000 or $6,000, you know, out of my pocket is a little tough. I mean, the only reason I'm even going to be able to manage this $4,000 bill is because I saved the majority of my tax return, because that's what most of it's going to be, is my tax return. And I mean, that just means that going forward next year, my tax return is going to also get saved and put aside for that summer term as well. And I mean, if I'm lucky, you know, I won't have to do anything for fall term, but again, we'll have to wait and see. And I should mention, I'm still planning on a winterim course as well. So that's going to be another $1,000 that I have to come up with out of pocket. So I mean, you know, there's a lot of money that's going to be spent for this next year. Because like I said, even with financial aid, even with the scholarship, it's still going to be pretty tight on the wallet. I mean, I'm looking at anywhere between $3,000 to $4,000 that I got to owe for every full semester, and then the $1,000 for the winterim term. So I mean, it's going to be rough, but like I keep saying, you know, I will do anything and everything to ensure that nothing gets in the way of my goals. So anyway, that's how summer term's going to look for me. And then fall term is going to be 18 credits. I have those classes selected because you can, what's actually kind of nice is that UWM allows you to put classes in a shopping cart, similar to like if you're shopping on Amazon. So that's great. I'm able to find classes, put them in my shopping cart. I can't obviously enroll in them because they put a hold on the account until the balance is paid for my summer term. So until I pay that for $4,100 some odd dollars, I can't enroll in the fall term. So that just means that I need to pay that as soon as possible so I can do that before classes like fill up or anything. But what's weird is I saw one of the classes had something like 300 seats available, which that had to have been a typo or something. I cannot imagine being an instructor having to, you know, manage like 300 students, oh my god, that would be a disaster. But either way, that's what it said, and I'm like, oh, all right. But regardless, I want to make sure to get enrolled in fall semester well before those classes fill up. So that's the plan. And then there's the winterim course, which I haven't decided on what I'm going to do, because originally I had it planned to do a natural science credit. And I guess I never did get to the end of talking about why I'm not going to CLEP test. So in regards to that, I have come to learn that when it comes to transfer credits, it works both ways. So what I mean by that is, once I'm done with this semester at MATC, I still need 6 credits. I need a natural science credit of 3 credits, I should say. And then I need I think it's just a humanities credit, or a course, I should say. So that's it, 6 credits. That's all I need, and then I'm done with MATC, and I get my degree. Now, as I've said before, I'm still walking across the stage and participating in the ceremony, the commencement ceremony, but like whatever they hand me will not actually be my degree, because I'll get that, because all students get those mailed after the ceremony. So none of the students are actually going to receive their degree when they walk across the stage. Those always arrive in the mail later. But for me, I have to complete 6 more credits before they're going to put a graduation date on my diploma. So what's nice is that, because I originally planned to do the CLEP testing and I was going to show them the grades, and then that would be it. That'd be in the end of MATC. But what's nice is that with the classes I'm taking over summer term, those will actually count, because the comparative literature and the atmospheric science will count for those credits that are required. So all I need to do is just finish out summer term, bring MATC a transcript showing that I passed and succeeded and blah, 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 and they'll accept that as the credits. That's still obviously requiring me to fill in the gap of 6 credits that I otherwise would have gotten with the CLEP tests. But again, it's then just worrying about the requirements on the UWM side and being done with MATC, which is really what I'd like to do. Just to say I have it done and over with. Because I mean, it's the commencement ceremony is still going to feel a little fake to me, only because of the fact that I still have work to do before I actually earn the degree. But that's neither here nor there. It's whatever. So, I mean, I can end up doing the same thing next year at UWM. If all goes well, I may end up having to do another kind of quote unquote fake ceremony as far as walking across the stage, and then still have a full summer term that I have to do in order to actually get the degree. So there's that. Trying to think of like what else I want to mention. I'm looking at my agenda here. There's I put in here to talk about the tattoo removal, but honestly, if you're keeping up on YouTube with the Erasing My Past videos, I think I pretty much cover the progress in there. So like I did, I think part 6, just maybe a few days ago. And I talked about the progress. I had, for those of you watching, I had my wrists and lower forearm done recently with the second treatment. So they're coming along nicely. As far as what the technician told me when I had my second treatment done, she says that they're not like super advanced, but she says they're coming along a lot better than most patients are doing, meaning that they are fading a lot faster than she originally would have expected. So that's good. That means that it could lead to me not requiring as many treatments to get this thing done, which will be good, because in addition to my tuition and all that, I also still have a $300 to $375 bill every month to pay for my tattoo treatments. So the fewer of those that I got to worry about, the better. And also in terms of time, you know, if they're progressing as fast as she's saying they are, that might also mean that I could have these all done maybe possibly by the end of this year. Because I mean, we're in May at this point. So I think I crunched the numbers and did the math. And if I only needed, I think, what was it? 4 or even 5 treatments total, that would put me at the end of the year. As far as finishing it up. And I mean, obviously I'm going to do as many treatments as is necessary, but it could end up being just the end of the year and then I'm done with these, which would be fantastic because I mean, now I'm in this cycle in addition to, you know, all my homework and whatnot. Now I'm in the cycle as well where every month I'm just in like moderate amounts of pain for one reason or another having to do with these treatments. So, you know, it's like, and it's always like as one treatment's starting to kind of heal to the point where I can just do everything normal and not have to be like cautious or careful is then when I'm getting the next treatment done on the other ones. So it's always just this kind of back and forth as far as my treatments are concerned, where I'm always having to be careful to some degree to make sure I'm not, you know, screwing things up as far as my treatments are concerned. Because I'm not terribly concerned about like scarring going on, but that doesn't mean that I want to necessarily encourage it either. So, you know, I'm just always now having to be kind of careful, making sure I don't do a lot of scratching or rubbing, which is kind of annoying with these ones right now because they do get kind of itchy sometimes. So I have to be careful not to, you know, just use my nails and scratch like I normally would, because that would be painful. You know, it would hurt. And like my it's kind of funny because like my I have a niece. She's not my biological niece, but I call her my niece, and she calls me uncle. But it's the friends that I was visiting the other night. And it's her and her brother, so I call him obviously my nephew as well. But she's 4, she'll be 5 in a few months. Actually, when she's my birthday buddy. We both have the same birthday, so that's always awesome. But anyway, every time I see her now, she's aware of what I'm going through and is asking questions about it. And sometimes it's hard to explain to a 4-year-old, A, why I'm getting it done, and B, how it's getting done. And I mean, I think for the most part, she understands that, that it is painful. And I think she realizes and understands that to a degree of respect as well. Like she's making a point not to really touch them, or at least when she does, she's gentle with them, which is good. I mean, that shows she's obviously understanding of that. But then it's like I'm trying to simplify basically the process that's getting done, and it's interesting to have to explain that to a small child. So I'll be curious, like when she's much older, if she's going to remember a time when I had tattoos or not. And obviously I can probably show her pictures and stuff, and she'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, that was a thing at one point. So anyway, it's like now I'm kind of going through that as well. Like every time I see her, there's more and more treatments done, more fadings going on. And I mean, she plays with temporary tattoos at like daycare and whatnot. So she's always showing me, the latest one she's got on like her forearm or her upper arm here. And she, like, that's probably what confuses her the most. She's wondering why it's not as simple for me to remove mine as it is for her to remove the ones she has, because obviously hers are just, they'll just wash off eventually. But I have to say, like, well, my tattoos are a little more permanent and they require a lot more work and time to remove. So, as I have been saying now at this point, since I've started doing the tattoo removal, please be sure that you are totally set on what you want to do in life and how you're going to do it before you go about doing something like getting a tattoo. That's not to say that like I'm condoning getting tattoos or anything like that. I'm just saying be wise about it. Know where your life is going to be taking you before you start making those kind of decisions, because I'm very much wishing I had done that. But to be honest, I was in a much different place when I started getting the tattoos and didn't think I was going to end up where I am today. Which is whatever. We all make mistakes in life. I don't want to consider the tattoos a mistake necessarily, because I do like having them and I am going to miss them, because I do believe in that form of expression as far as having body art. But at this point, I kind of wish I had gone maybe more the piercing route, because piercings are a hell of a lot easier to deal with when you don't need them anymore. Granted, if I had like gauged my ears or something, that might be a little more difficult. But either way, I'm starting to ramble already. So one thing I haven't mentioned yet is that during MGC weekend, which was at this point about almost a month ago, I had, for those of you that remember, if you've been following the show since the beginning, sometime last year I did a video where it didn't show up on the podcast feed. So if you're only listening to the podcast, you're probably unaware of this. But I did a video for the YouTube channel in which I shared a video that a fellow J-vlogger does. Now, for those of you who don't know or don't remember, a J-vlogger is basically, well, a vlogger is like a blogger, but does it in video form. So pretty much people have like YouTube channels and they're considered vloggers. And J-vloggers are just people that do the vlogging thing, but they do it from Japan, hence J-vloggers. And oftentimes these are people that live in Japan. More often than not, I think they're lifers as well, meaning that they're planning to spend their golden years and probably even die, be buried in Japan, or something along those lines at least. Like for me, I don't know if I fall into that category yet, because obviously I haven't set foot in Japan as of yet. But that's still to be determined. I could end up being a lifer. I could end up being just a temporary visitor. I don't know. But either way, I helped out this J-vlogger because he put up a video talking about this school in Japan that was taking advantage of their English teachers, and they were basically giving at least this one guy that was being spoken about a really, really raw deal. We're talking like they spent the first 3 months, I think, without pay while they were still working, and I think when they tried to leave, it like screwed with their contracts. It was just a whole mess. And it gets covered in far more detail by this J-vlogger. But the reason that I helped him is because there was the potential, because Japan has fairly strict laws about slander. So if you live in Japan and you start speaking badly about a company and they catch wind of it, they can actually legally force you to take the video down. And that applies whether or not the information being stated about the company is true, because it's simply slander. Whether or not it's justified and substantiated, it doesn't matter. Slander is slander. So even though there's like testimony and verification that this company was doing this kind of stuff to these English teachers, he eventually was forced to take it down. But as a result, because of the fact that I made the video and I ripped his video and just put it after my little introduction, it's still available, because at least at this point, Japan cannot touch me because I live in the United States. So that was one workaround, and that's one of the reasons I helped him, is because I think during the video he encourages people to repost the video essentially on their channel. And so that's what I did. I ripped the video and put in a quick little introduction for me, explaining it to my audience, and then that was it. Then I reposted it on the channel, and what's done is done. The video's still up there, so while I don't have a ton of videos, it should be fairly easy to find. It's titled something like please watch this if you're going to be a teacher in Japan, or something like that. But the point that I'm getting at is that he ended up sharing my video when his got taken down, because he wanted to still make obviously his audience aware of the situation, because I can only assume that this company's probably still thriving or whatever. So as a result of people starting to see that video, I started getting a few more subscribers. So first off, I mean, yeah, I'm obviously almost 2 hours into the show, but welcome to anyone that's maybe this is their first episode. I don't know if that increased like podcast subscribers, but it definitely at least increased subscribers on YouTube. Now, I'm not talking like it's an astronomical amount or anything, but it did double the numbers that I had, which admittedly were low numbers. I'm definitely not like in the thousands or hundreds of thousands or anything like that. But it built up the subscriber base a little bit. So I just wanted to address that and say, welcome to anyone where this may be like one of the first videos that they're watching. But hopefully if this video interests you, then you'll go back and kind of listen and see where it all began. So and I guess I'll throw in there that if I haven't already implied it already, the website is not going to stay up forever. It will probably, at this point, depending on how things go, because a lot of people have been asking me lately, not necessarily through the show, but just in general, like as I'm having conversation or whatever, they ask like what the end game is going to look like. And that's primarily because like I'm starting to get close to the finish line. Things are starting to fall into place, and Japan is getting that much closer. So the game, the primary plan is as follows. As I am working towards this year at UWM, it'll probably be around the new year. So going from 2016 to 2017, somewhere in that time frame, probably somewhere during my spring semester, which I think, let's see, 5, 6, possibly 7. So it's either going to be around session 7 or 8 that I'll probably start talking about this, in depth at least. But that's going to be around the time that I'm going to start applying to Japan-oriented jobs. Most notably, I'm going to first and foremost apply to the JET program, which I don't know if I talked about it too much on the show proper. But essentially the JET program is like one of the most desired ways to become an English teacher in Japan. There are other methods, but the JET is like the cream of the crop. It's the top, highest sought method to working as an English teacher in Japan. Oftentimes that's because you work under contract, which, I mean, there are lots of contractual jobs as English teachers outside of JET as well, but you work as a contract. It's usually, I think it's an annual contract, and it's oftentimes one of the higher paid, if not highest paid, position. And I don't remember exact numbers, but I think it's somewhere around like 300,000 yen a month, which may sound like a lot, but it's not the equivalent of like like, $300,000 a month. It's not the same thing, because the exchange rate is something like, it's somewhere in the realm of like 100 yen equals $1. That's the easiest way to just kind of crunch the math. It's obviously not the exact amount. I think now it's like around 110 yen equals a dollar. But either way, 300,000 yen a month, I think, is somewhere in the realm of either $200 to $2,500 a month, in American dollars. So I mean, it's totally a livable wage, and so that's one of the reasons that JET is sought after. And because you're going through JET, it works through the Japanese government, so you're technically like an employee of the Japanese government, as opposed to other positions where you're usually working for a private company. Now, that's not to say, again, that the private companies are not worthwhile, but they do often pay a little less. And like I said, the 300,000 is usually like kind of the highest amount I've heard, as far as pay for teaching English, as a starting salary. Now, I don't know how it works as far as raises or bonuses or anything like that. I do know that usually teachers are not paid during the time that school is not in session, for obvious reasons. So that's not to say that if I was involved with that I would be getting paid during, say, the summer months or the spring months. I forget, the Japanese school year is a little different than the American school year. So I don't know exactly how it works, but obviously once I'm in Japan, I'll be able to report on stuff like that. But anyway, what I'm getting at is that JET is usually the highest sought after method for getting to Japan as an English teacher. So that's going to be my first step. That's not to say that I won't be exploring other avenues, like while I'm trying out for JET, but at the same time, I am looking at JET really early on, because my understanding is that you can start applying for these jobs upwards of 6 months before your projected graduation date. So that's where I don't know exactly when I'm going to start applying, because I want to at least have a really good, solid idea of when I'm going to graduate. Now the thing is that if, let's say, I get accepted to the JET program, oftentimes JETs will ship out to Japan in August, which is right before at least one portion of the school year begins. So normally that's when JETs get shipped out, is right around mid to late August. Because I will still be in my summer session, which, if this summer term is any indication, will take me pretty much to the end of August. There would be no way that I would be able to finish out my studies, get my degree, and also be preparing to leave. I don't think that would be possible, for starters. But the thing is that you can also get what's called shortlisted, which, instead of putting you at an August ship date, it puts you at an April ship date. So my plan is going to be to try and be ready for Japan by April of 2018. So that's the end game, is try and April 2018 is my goal. Now that's not to say that it could end up being August 2018. It's possible. But April is what I'm shooting for. So, like I said, that means I'm going to try and apply sometime in the spring of next year. So roughly a little under a year away, is when I'm going to start applying to the JET program. And while I won't go into detail, I have been approached by other individuals that have private companies in Japan, and they are encouraging me, obviously, to go through with the JET program, and to some do believe I would make a very good JET program candidate and teacher, which is good. I mean, I'm definitely happy to to know that I'm fitting the bill in that regard. But the only thing I'm going to say is that there are other, essentially, backup plans. And so if JET does not, if JET doesn't work out, or for whatever reason, maybe JET takes too long or something like that, I don't know. There are alternatives already kind of in the works. Now, I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to go into details, and part of that is at the request of these people not really wanting to have that information disclosed at this time. But it's good to know that things are starting to get set in motion. Nothing is set in stone. It's not like I have a direct job offer or anything like that. It's just that communication has been established that can lead to something like a job offer going forward. And I mean, it could even be something like, if I go into JET and I finish out my 3 to 5 years in JET, then I still have opportunities that could await me to keep me in Japan even after JET is done, because usually JET only lasts roughly 3 to 5 years, and then the contract is fulfilled to completion. And while I think there are other opportunities within the JET program, but being a teacher usually ends after 3 to 5 years. So most often, because a lot of these teachers are kids fresh out of college, so they've spent, they get out of high school at 18, they go to school for 4 years. That puts them at like around the age of 22. And then if they get into JET immediately, then they're spending ages 23 to say 28 doing JET things, or like 25 or whatever. And then at that point, they'll come home. They'll come back to the States and, I don't know, move on to whatever lies next for them, either like a graduate degree if they want to move forward in their education, or they will look for a job here in the States. But that's not, at least for me, that's not necessarily my plan. My plan is going to be using something like JET or whatever job I take as far as getting my foot into Japan, and then exploring options from there to see, well, first off, I'll be spending that time deciding if I like living in Japan, which, I mean, while I know I talk a lot about the things I would enjoy, I mean, even in this particular episode, talking about like my safety and things like that, that I would definitely enjoy that aspect of Japan, there could still be a lot of bad that outweighs the good, that would cause me to want to come back to the States. And I mean, who knows? I mean, the friendships and relationships that I have developed since I moved to Wisconsin have definitely been a lot stronger bonds that I've made, as opposed to almost all the time that I spent in Portland. So it's a very different situation here for me as far as the people that I consider to be very close to me. So that could lead to, very bad homesickness if and when I go to Japan. It's more, I mean, I plan on it being a win, but I suppose it could be an if. But, I mean, just the way it's going to be. I mean, it's definitely, I won't lie, it's probably going to very much be a tearful goodbye to a lot of my friends when I leave to go to Japan. Because I don't know if it'll be temporary or if it'll be forever. Regardless, I mean, I do plan on visiting, definitely coming back to the States to visit and whatnot. And I do have other works in mind for when I'm in Japan, as far as, I guess, I don't know what you would call it, alternatives to the road to Japan. Because the road to Japan will be done when I'm done with college, which is kind of what I was getting at, is that the website will probably get shut down somewhere around the end of summer 2018, which take that however you want, but it costs money to keep the site up and running. I mean, it's not an extravagant bill, but it's still money that around that time I'm going to need to put into other things. And I mean, the website at that point will have served its purpose. And I have plans to archive certain aspects of it. And I mean, there is still the YouTube channel, and that won't be going anywhere. I'm not going to shut that down or anything. I probably won't add any new content once I'm done, but all the episodes will still be there, and I'll have I'll like I did with my show Face Value, I will also put the episodes of The Road to Japan up on archive.org, and I'll probably put a link in the description on the YouTube channel or something that allows people to access that. So because I want The Road to Japan to still be an archive of my experience doing this, and it's not 100% about just getting to Japan to live and work there. It's also about just showing people that things are totally capable and within your grasp if you're willing to apply yourself and do the work that's necessary. Because I find that I have friends that come to me for that type of advice, and I mean, I tell them, like for example, I was talking to a friend of mine just a few days ago, and she was telling me, we were catching up since we haven't really talked in a while, and I was kind of telling her how things are going on my end, and she was telling me how things are going on her end, and like every time we speak, I always say, because she's complimenting like my progress and stuff, because she sees it like on social media, like how I'm doing and everything. And I always tell her, I say, I may be doing this, but you're totally capable of doing this yourself. Because I know it, several times she talked to me about like what it would take to get started in college, and I tell her, like, no matter how impossible it may seem, it's totally doable. You just have to be clever about it. Because, like, for me, yeah, I had financial issues that got in the way of that, because as I've mentioned on the show, I had a bankruptcy, and that is very detrimental to getting things like loans. And it's honestly just a matter of figuring out a way to work around it. And anybody can do that. Anyone that's watching this or listening to it, if you think that you are not capable of doing something like going to college, you are wrong. You are 100% wrong, because the only one telling you that is the only one that's keeping you from doing it, and that's you. Because I can tell you till I'm blue in the face that you are totally capable of doing it, but I can't do anything beyond that. I cannot, I can't afford to put the money forward to get you started. I mean, if I could, I totally would. I mean, I'd love to have everyone get a good quality education, and make the most of it. But unfortunately, that's not how the world works, at least at this point. If I win the lottery, maybe I'll consider something like that, but I don't play the lottery, so that's probably not gonna happen. But anyway, what I'm getting at is that for me, I made the excuses for over 10 years, and they often were not, like, looking back on it, they were the dumbest excuses ever, because I put things like money as a factor. And the only reason when I look back on it that I put money as a factor is because I just wanted to play. I just wanted to play around and have fun and, do stupid crap that wasn't really going to help me in the end. So now I'm just putting my money towards more productive things like college. And yes, it is an enormous investment. I mean, things may change going forward that will allow college to be more affordable, but we have to wait and see. I mean, a lot of it depends on how political movements are going. I mean, we are in an election year, so and we're only in May, so there's still a long way to go before November, when someone new gets voted into the presidency, and then we will see how that goes in the years to come. And I mean, I really don't want to make any sort of predictions or anything like that. I'm hopeful that things will look positively in the direction of making college more of a possibility for people, because I do feel that oftentimes people factor, money is one of the biggest reasons that people may not go to college. It's one of the reasons I didn't go to college for a long time, is because I convinced myself that I couldn't afford to. And I mean, I guess to a degree I was right. I was not necessarily making a great wage, but I also wasn't exploring things like financial aid that could help me out. I also didn't think I was going to apply myself as much as I am right now. So that also eliminated the potential for like scholarships, because I felt I wasn't going to put in that kind of work. And these may be excuses that you out there listening or watching may be thinking as well. And I learned in psychology, and to a degree in sociology, the classes I've taken so far, that there's something called the self-fulfilling prophecy. And this is one of the things I explained to my friend when I was talking to her about this, is that the way the self-fulfilling prophecy works is that essentially if you convince yourself of certain aspects of your life long enough, they will come true. Now it's not like Harry Potter, where we just start mumbling a couple things, wave a wand, and all this crap starts to appear out of nowhere. But it's something like, if you convince yourself that you can't afford to go to college, or you don't have the willpower or determination or motivation to get through college, then that will come true. You will not have the motivation or determination to get through college. However, that can work in reverse as well. Because if you convince yourself, and this is what I do, this is what I personally do. So if you're seeing what I'm doing and thinking like I'm making some magnificent feat of human whatever, stamina, determination, whatever, it's simply me telling myself I can do it. And I'm not gonna lie, I hear that voice of self-doubt all the time as I'm going through this. I've heard it a lot, especially during this particular semester, because I've had a lot of credits that I had to deal with. So I definitely had moments where I felt I bit off a little more than I could chew. I was worried I was going to have to drop a class or something like that and extend this timeline as far as what I'm wanting to do. Drag this out even longer than I already have it. So I have to fight those voices, and I'm not saying I'm like going crazy or anything. I'm just saying, like, there's these voices that say like, well, what if you can't do it? What if it's not possible? What if it's more like the voices ask questions. They question whether I'm my capabilities, and I just have to continue to say, no, I'm going to do it. I can and will do it, and it will happen. And I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and I'm going to finish it with a smile on my face. And I'm, screw you voices, essentially is what I'm saying. And I mean, as it sounds as simple as that, it, to a degree, is. But you have to follow through with actions as well. You can't just say, you can't just talk to yourself in a mirror or something and say like, no, I'm going to do it, and then just have it magically happen. You have to follow through with it. You have to show and prove that you have what it takes. And that's the thing, is that I firmly 100% believe that everyone has what it takes to do what I'm doing. I don't think I'm special. I don't think I'm unique. The only thing I think I'm doing differently is that I'm just believing what I'm saying to myself. That is it. That is all I am doing that's different from what other people are doing. Because the problem is that people are also believing what they're saying to themselves. But the problem is that what they're saying to themselves is that they will fail and not that they will succeed. And that's all that needs to change. Because if you start to say things like, oh, damn it, I'm going to succeed and I'm going to make this happen. You seriously have to come to a firm belief that you can do it. And that unfortunately is not anything I can do on my end to really help you with that. That's something you have to believe within yourself. I mean, I wish it was something as simple as like, if I was just having some magical drink every morning and that was what was boosting my confidence, then I'd be like, yeah, here, drink this and you'll be fine. But it's not that. I think a lot of it has to start with taking that first step. And a lot of people are really super anxious about taking that first step because they don't know what lies on the other side of it. And I was nervous. I was scared to death, and I still am to a degree of what I'm doing. Because every semester has things that change and are done differently. They're not going according to plan. But I'm adapting to it. And if you had told me a year ago that I was going to be taking 16 credits one semester, following it up with 12 credits during the summer, and then 18 credits in the fall, I'd have told you were crazy, because I, at one point, would have believed that I wasn't capable of doing that. Which is why when I started college, I only took 2 classes, because I did not know what I was capable of. But we all have to start somewhere. So that's usually what I tell my friends when it comes to college, is that don't dive in head first and overwhelm yourself. Start small. Start with something, anything. I was talking to my friend this morning about how he's in the middle of like I don't want to say a crisis, but he's having difficulties with his job, and I'm trying to tell him, like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Leave your options open, and that includes working on a degree. Because I firmly believe that everyone should try and work towards a college degree. That's a given for me at this point, is that a college degree will get you so much farther in life than not having one. Now, of course, that's not to say that there are aspects in the world that don't require a college degree for you to be extremely successful. But a degree helps. It helps a lot. And if you're in a crap situation without a degree, maybe getting a degree would help improve things. It's just speculation, but that's all I have to go on, because I can't look at every individual's particular situation. But I'd say 9 times out of 10, you could probably at least improve the quality of your life if you had a degree. And oftentimes the one of the roadblock rebuttals I get is, well, I don't know what I want to pursue. That was one of the answers from my friend this morning, is, well, I don't know what I'd want my degree to be in. Actually, the other friend I was talking to, she didn't know what she would pursue either. Essentially what she would pursue that would be something that she wants to do. And this is something that I've learned over my time, is that not everything is going to be to your liking. As I was saying earlier, I've been taking 2 years worth of classes that weren't necessarily ones that I wanted to be in. I don't want to be in a political science class this semester. I don't like politics. It's not really my thing. But it's what's needed to get the job done. And if that's what I need to do, then that's what I'm going to do, because it's going to lead to more fruitful things going forward. That's what I have to keep in mind. You have to keep that end goal in mind. And the beauty of doing, like, say, a 2-year degree, like what I'm doing at MATC, doing that first is the fact that, for one, you are just taking care of general ed requirements. These are going to be credits that you have to take at any college that you go to, as far as like a 4-year. It's going to be required in the majority of 4-year programs that you're going to take. Now, the other nice thing is that if, say, you change your mind at a later time, so let's say you've done a year's worth of classes and then you decide you want to go for a technical degree, something that's just a 2-year focus specific skilled trade, because maybe you want to finish early, or maybe you want to not worry about a bachelor's degree, whatever. Those credits will still apply towards it. And then it's just a matter of filling the gaps with the specific skilled trade requirements. And what's also nice about working on a 2-year degree is that, most importantly, it lets you explore many fields. So, that's one of the benefits to having it force you into certain requirements. Like, you know, I mean, look at the diverse spectrum of classes I'm taking this semester. I'm taking art, I'm taking speech, public speaking, I'm taking political science, I'm taking diversity, I'm also taking science. I mean, that almost covers like the entire spectrum of the types of fields out there as far as what to study in academia. And I wouldn't, you know, I'd say probably half those classes I wouldn't have selected if I was given the choice, but I have to take them. But it's now added to the palette of what I have experience with. So, you know, once, I mean, I did decide early on, or at least had an idea of where I wanted to go with my bachelor's degree. But for someone that doesn't know where to go, it can be a daunting task. But as you're going through these like 2 years worth of classes, you may find one of those classes that you're forced to take that you otherwise wouldn't have chosen ended up being the subject that you want to pursue for your bachelor's degree, for a master's degree, for a doctorate, whatever. And maybe, I mean, who knows, maybe you'll find or hear about a position in a particular field that's covered in one of the subjects that you're taking. So, like for me, I realized that I want to either be a teacher or be like some kind of guidance counselor, similar to like an advisor at a college. Those are the two professions I think I would do really, really well in. Both those professions would benefit from a degree in sociology. Sociology is not necessarily like a topic I'm gaga over, but it's a subject I can really get into. So, and I mean, for me, I'd almost say that applies to damn near any subject. I mean, sociology was chosen partially because like it's one of the lowest amount of credits that's required to get the degree, and it has an online curriculum. So, I mean, there are other factors that played into why I chose it, but, you know, I was still accepting of the fact that this is going to be a degree I'm more than willing to pursue, which is somewhat ironic, because I was thinking about this today as I was getting ready to record, in that when I originally started college, when I was still working on the IT degree that I no longer pursue, but when I was looking into that and I was looking at the courses and subjects required for that 2-year degree, I chose the 2 classes that I thought were going to be the most uninteresting to me. And those 2 classes were economics and sociology. Now, the ironic part about that is that my degree now, my bachelor's degree, is going to be majoring in sociology with a minor in economics. So that's kind of what I wanted to point out as far as you never know what's going to grab your interest until you do it. And sometimes you got to do stuff that you're not necessarily willing to do. But you might be surprised at what you're capable of. And like, that's what I hope people take going forward, when they listen to this show. Even if it's well after I've finished and moved on, either to Japan or to something else entirely. I hope that's what people will take from this, as they listen or watch, is that I fully believe that anyone could do what I'm doing. But I've said that many times already, just in the show alone. I'm not special. I'm not unique. I'm just someone that believes they can do it. And it's as simple as that, really. But I have that same belief of other people. I wish there was some way to truly convey how I felt about my own motivation, because I think if I was, then that could rub off onto other people and get them to believe the same thing about themselves and lead to, you know, a whole generation of people that truly believe in their own potential. Because, I mean, we live in a world where no one's going to hold your hand. No one's going to help you out, at least in this country, without some serious reason to do so. And usually that requires you to essentially be related to the other person in some way. At least that's what I've seen. But I believe that if we all support one another and show each other that we can do this, then it would make the world a better place. Which I know sounds hokey and cheesy as hell, but I don't know. That's just what I believe in. It's hard to explain, but like, I try my damnedest to encourage others to succeed. You know, not even necessarily to the level that I'm succeeding, but just to succeed to their own satisfaction. But I also don't let them consider that level to be like a C average or something if we're talking about school. I want to make sure that they are really truly looking into their own potential and not settling basically for something like a C average, because to me a C average is just that. It's settling. You're settling for whatever may come, and to me a C average wouldn't really be anything that someone is applying themselves for, because a C is the bare minimum. That's all you need to get a degree. Yeah, it's not going to get you into like honor societies or probably for scholarships or anything like that, but it'll still get you the degree. And I mean, there are probably many classmates of mine, both past and present and future, that will graduate in that manner. They will graduate at the bare minimum and they'll still get a degree and they'll still get a job. And I mean, as far as whether that's going to improve the quality of life for them, I don't know. But I am starting to see the fruits of my labor, at least, as far as, you know, making sure that all the hard work that I'm doing, which it is hard work. I mean, it's not, you know, like I say, it's not just some magical thing that I'm doing. You do have to apply yourself. You do have to put the work in, but the work is not as hard and daunting as you might think. It's more just a matter of you applying yourself and setting your priorities. And that's all I'm doing. I mean, every time I'm making plans to like spend time with friends or whatever, that's time that gets taken away from my homework. So I always have to put my homework first. And I plan everything else around that. Because once I have my homework done, then there's nothing to worry about. It's kind of like, I don't know, like when when I was being raised, my parents always taught me just to get it done and get it done as quickly as possible, just so it's done and out of the way. Then you can focus on the more interesting or fun things. So, when it came to like chores, that's how I tried to do it, is I tried to just get it done and get it done as quickly as possible. And I mean, that's essentially what homework is. It is a chore. It's not, it's not necessarily something I look forward to, but it's something I need to do. And in the grand scheme of things, I mean, we on average are on this planet for anywhere from 60 to 80 years, depending on the average lifespan. So to make sacrifices for just 4 to even 8 years, depending on what you pursue, I think that's a very small price to pay. Granted, yes, there's other things like money that get integrated into that price, but it doesn't seem like that much to me. So I mean, when yes, I make sacrifices as far as like spending time with friends or doing the things that I want to do, it's just worth it to me. And I think a lot of times people just don't think it's worth it. And I mean, there's not really much I can do about that. I can only try to convince them that, in the end, it's just money. In the end, it's just some time. But for me, it's about someday being able to wake up and look forward to the entire day, not just a part of it. And not loathe and dread what I have to go and do for 8 hours or more. And that's not to say that when the time comes that I get to Japan, that it's just going to be a carnival ride the whole time. But I mean, I won't lie. I mean, there will definitely be a lot of stuff I will enjoy about being in Japan. But there's also going to be days where it's going to be work. It's not always going to be, fun and games. I mean, there's going to be a lot that I still have to learn as far as being a teacher, becoming a teacher, and applying myself to become a better teacher going forward. And that's going to be hard work. I'm sure there are going to be lots of days where I'm going to come home and be completely drained and exhausted. And there may be other things I still have to do beyond that. But I don't know. I feel like once I get to that point, I will very much look forward to what I'm doing, to look forward to the challenges that will lie ahead of me. Because I already kind of feel that way right now as I'm going through school. I mean, in a lot of ways, school is the one thing that's keeping me upbeat and positive, because that's something I can look forward to, is to engage myself with other students, teachers, friends, coworkers, and just try to not only enrich my life, but enrich theirs as well, as best I can. And I hope I'm doing that at least to some degree with the show as well. But I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just completely talking out of my ass at this point. I know I'm just kind of getting rambly here. But there's one last thing I want to end on. And this is something that kind of took me completely by surprise. Which, I mean, as I'm speaking now, it's a little outdated because it's a month old. But it was something that just was very striking to me when it occurred. And it's so okay, I say it's a month old because it was having to do with April Fool's Day, which was a month ago. And while I typically look at the holiday as something really stupid and often leading to childish pranks, I oftentimes just dismiss it. It's just a dumb holiday. I just make sure that if there's anything I read on the internet or catch that's dated on or around April 1st of whatever year, then I take it very much with a grain of salt until I get further clarification. But I decided, just for the hell of it, to kind of partake in the pranks this year. So I wrote out a couple paragraphs on social media saying that I was going to quit school and that I was basically just really worn out and didn't feel I had anything left in me anymore, and then that I was done. And I honestly, like, to be 100% honest here, I feel that my presence on social media is very small and limited, as far as I don't think a lot of people follow anything that I'm doing, because while I'm not really hunting for likes or shares or anything like that on something like Facebook, I don't really get a lot of responses in any way, shape, or form. There's a couple people that often will respond in some form or another, but usually it's minimal. It's very, very small, and like I said, it's oftentimes the same people. So I figure, or at least assume, that most people don't follow me in one regard or another, or just plain don't care about anything I write. Like they might see that I wrote something, they'll just skip past it and move on to something else. And that's what I expected. I expected, maybe like a couple likes or something on that post. But what was surprising was, don't get me wrong. And when I wrote the post, I wanted it to sound convincing, because obviously it's a prank. I wanted to be able to say, haha, April Fools, the next day or whatever. If I was able to, get anybody. But what happened really surprised me is that I had a lot of my friends some that I assumed didn't follow anything I was doing, would comment on it and say, show actual legitimate concern. Like they were worried that I was truly quitting. And even one or two of them were classmates of mine that I have since befriended on social media. So some of them see me in the classroom and they see how I do in there and everything. And they're saying something like, "You can't quit, man. You can't quit. You've come so far." And they would even go as far as to say like that I was some sort of inspiration to keep them going forward in their classes or whatever they're pursuing in life. And it even got as far as some of my friends sending me text messages on my phone, like really being concerned about this, saying like, "Hey man, have you really thought this over? Do you want to like talk about it?" Like showing genuine, real concern about, the idea that I wasn't gonna finish school. And it really blew my mind. And it made me prematurely kind of go back on there and say like, "Oh, okay guys, it was just an April Fool's joke. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset anyone." Because people seemed like they were starting to get upset about this. And it was just really, it was really surprising, and it was really moving and very touching to see that while they may not directly respond to everything I'm putting up having to do with school, that they're watching, and that there's still a level of accountability in that regard, even if I'm not seeing it actively every day. Because it's not like anyone's checking on me every day to say like, "Hey, how's school going? Are you still keeping your grades up?" or anything like that. Oftentimes it's like if I'm catching up with friends after a few weeks or a month or something, then they'll be like, "Hey, how's school going?" and I'll tell them, and that'll be the end of it. But they were to have so many people come to me and be like, "Hey, man, no, you can't quit. You've come so far. You really need to stick this out. Let me help you. Let me counsel you or whatever." I mean, basically, people wanting to talk me into sticking it out, finishing out the semester. Because I was saying stuff like, I'm not going to pursue my bachelor's degree. I don't even know if I'm going to finish the associates. I might just quit tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, they were legitimately concerned, which, I mean, goes to show that I wrote a convincing enough post on there. But at the same time, it was also just really heartwarming to know that people are out there gunning for me. And I don't know if any of these friends, watch the show or listen to it or anything like that. But if you are one of those people out there that showed your concern on April Fool's Day, I thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because it was, it's things like that really turn things around for me whenever I have those voices of self-doubt saying, well, maybe you can't do this. And I mean, to a degree, maybe that was behind the whole April Fool's thing. Maybe that was me voicing my voices of self-doubt is how that turned out. And maybe that's why it sounded so convincing, because maybe that's just how the voices sound in my head sometimes is saying that I can't do it. And what's important is that I don't buy into their crap. And I hope this will, that this show in time will inspire those that have those voices of self-doubt to hear what I'm doing, what I'm going through, and to hear that I'm pretty much in the same boat as them. Is that, if you're listening to this or watching it, you can totally do it. There's nothing to say that you can't accept anything that you say. Because there are going to be doubters out there. There are going to be doubters in your life, outside of your life. Like I was saying about, the HR rep kind of scoffing at the idea of me graduating, from UWM next year. There are people like her out there, and it's not just her. There's others that do think that I'm not going to pull through for one reason or another. But I mean, as time goes on, I think I'm showing those people that I'm very serious about what I'm doing. I noticed that I got a lot of people's attention when I started doing the tattoo removal. Apparently that was a really big signal to those that are doubting me that, yeah, I'm 110% serious about doing this, and nothing's going to stand in my way, including their words of doubt. So I mean, that's, I'm looking at the clock. I'm starting to approach 3 hours here, so I think it's time to call it a show. So I apologize for all the rambly nonsense, but I mean, yeah, the last month has done a lot of has caused a lot of self-reflection for me. So I'm sorry if that kind of spilled out into the show and it's not necessarily something you're particularly interested in, but I'm hoping that if there's those of you out there listening that that feel you can't do something like this, that can't go through like school or whatever it is that life is throwing in your way, because we all have different kinds of challenges that we must overcome, and it's just a matter of if you feel you can't do it, then you won't, and you need to change that. And nothing will change until you're able to change it with yourself. Oftentimes I see something like, you must love yourself before you can love another, or some such nonsense. But that's what I always think about as I'm doing this, is that I woke up one day and I looked in the mirror and I was not satisfied with what I saw. And that, I mean, that was a long time ago that day happened, whenever it was. And it took some time to figure out how I was going to fix that. And like oftentimes I look in the mirror and I'm still not satisfied with what I see. And we're not necessarily talking like physical appearance per se, but just like a reflection of who I am at this point. I like where I'm going, but I'm still not satisfied with whatever the end result would be if I just stopped everything right now. So, with silly crap like the hair pledge that I'm doing, or something a little more serious like getting my tattoos removed, it's all contributing to like what I'm considering like a chrysalis stage. So, if any of you know how a butterfly works, they start off as caterpillars, they go into a chrysalis stage, and then they emerge a butterfly. And that's what I feel I'm doing right now, is I'm going through this chrysalis stage, even in a physical manner, not necessarily just internal, but external as well. So, there'll come a day where I will not only have the degree in my hand and hopefully a job waiting for me in Japan, which also will hopefully lead to a better life, but I'll also look different on the outside. I'll obviously not have long hair anymore at any point, because I'm not gonna lie, the longer my hair gets, the more annoying it is for me, just because it's a lot more maintenance than I thought it was gonna be. I mean, it's not like I'm obviously worrying about product or anything, but damn, it was a lot easier to just worry about short hair. I mean, I went through a phase where I was just shaving my head all the time, and I kind of miss those days, because wow, that was not really that much to worry about. But I mean, there'll come a day where I will have my hair cut, and I likely will be clean shaven too, because oftentimes Japan requires their teachers to be clean shaven, so that'll probably happen too. And then I also won't have the tattoos, and I'll probably be dressing a little bit more professionally, because that's also going to be required for the job. But I mean, compared to how I look now, like oftentimes people will say like, oh, you kind of look like a homeless person, just with my appearance. And it's like, oh, well, whatever. But that's where I'm at right now. I'm in like this kind of metamorphosis where I am, switching from the person I had become 10 years ago to the person I want to become for the next 10 years. And, as I tell everyone, it's not an overnight process. It's something that's going to take time, and it's going to require an investment of determination and willpower. And sometimes, days are going to be tougher than others, and you just got to be able to suck it up and be like, no, F you life. I'm going to get through this. And it's hard. It's hard as hell sometimes, but you can easily overcome it if you just know how. And oftentimes it has to start with you saying it to yourself in the mirror. If you look at the person you see in the mirror and you're not satisfied with it, then you need to figure out how you're going to change that. And once you figure that out, then you set up a plan and you stick to it. And before you know it, you will change, and hopefully for the better. So I think I'm going to leave with that. I think I've talked obviously long enough. So to wrap up, I'm going to put a track to skip at the end, and I thought it'd be interesting to share like another song that kind of gets me pumped. I know I've shared a couple in the past, and this is a song that's no different. However, one thing I notice sometimes when I listen to the radio, because for those who don't know, I listen to the radio from a station in Japan, so it is Japanese radio, and obviously they play Japanese music. But what's interesting is that sometimes they play songs that were originally American hits, but then they are done with a version in Japanese. So I actually don't have the name of the band or the singer or what have you, but the song is the original song was called "Holding Out for a Hero," which was done by Bonnie Tyler in the late 80s, I think. And it's cheesy, it's 80s, so it's what you would expect. And if you know the song, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. That's not the song I'm going to play, because honestly, you could find that song damn near anywhere. But what I am going to play is one that you may not have heard, which is the same song but done in Japanese by a Japanese singer. Now, I assume that this singer is probably popular in Japan, and they were simply doing a cover of a popular song in America. So, I consider it similar to like when we had a wave maybe like 10, 15 years ago of movies that were made in Japan, but then were remade in America with like white actors and all that, but the story would change. The Grudge comes as a example of that, which was a remake, an American remake of the movie Ju-on, which was done in Japan. Granted, The Grudge was filmed in Japan as well, but it was done with white actors playing the main characters. So I figured that this song is kind of a reverse of that, where it was a hit song in America and then it was redone in Japanese. But it's still essentially the same song, but I thought it would be interesting to share with you how that goes, because it's not... I've heard other songs done in this format where it's like, oh, hey, I recognize this song, thinking they're playing like the American song, and it actually turns out to be the Japanese version of that song. So it's interesting, and I just thought it'd be cool to kind of share that with you. So anyway, that's pretty much going to do it. As always, if you have any questions, thoughts, complaints, hate mail, you can always write email at theroadtojapan.com, and you can always go to theroadtojapan.com to find all episodes leading up to this one, including anything that's been done on the YouTube channel, which is also going to be where you find content you can't find on the podcast feed. So if you're curious about say the Erasing My Past video segments that I've been doing, those you're not going to find those on the podcast feed. You have to go to the YouTube channel to check that out. However, you can find all that video content at theroadtojapan.com, so you don't have to actually go to YouTube if for whatever reason you don't want to. So there's that, and then there's other videos on there, also not on the podcast feed, that somehow occasionally will make it into the show proper, but usually they're a bit more focused, talking about a specific topic, and usually they're a lot shorter in length. Definitely not this almost 3-hour extravaganza that I've been doing for this episode. So you can find that there. And then you can also like the page on Facebook, which is, I think, just facebook.com/theroadtojapan. Or you can, if you're more of the Twitter type user, you can follow at The Road to Japan on Twitter. And you can get in touch with the show that way. I don't think there's really much else. The website has other information. Like I said, if you want to always keep up with the classes I'm in or the classes I'm looking to do, because I actually have the whole plan laid out for UWM. They're not like focus classes yet, but at least I have like placement holders or something along those lines. But you can pretty much see how the next year is going to be played out as I move on to UWM. And then you can see other silly crap like progress on the hair pledge and other such nonsense. But anyway, that's finally going to do it for this epic long ass episode of The Road to Japan. As always, my name is Nico, and I will catch you guys next time. Minasan, ganbatte.